Tony here over at Highway 83 Suzuki again. Today we're going to be talking about replacing the starter motor on Geo Tracker or Suzuki Sidekick. So what we have here is a rolling chassis, which I thought would be a good opportunity to show you guys how to replace the starter without having the fender and the bodies in the way. So here we go. This is the starter here. First thing you're going to want to do is get this boot out of the way so you can access your wiring. A lot of guys claim they work from the bottom to replace the starter, but I'm all over the top, baby. So I'd be leaning over the fenders here, and it's going to be a tight fit. You can't really see what you're doing, but that's why this video hopefully will help you. First thing, we're going to get this main power wire, which should be a 13 millimeter. Sometimes people will change these nuts and bolts, and I'm just going to tell you what they should be. So this will be a 13 millimeter. We're going to get our box end wrench right now for that. Okay, we've got our rubber boot pulled down far so it's not in our way. If you can get the box end of the wrench on there, that's great. Otherwise, use the open end and get her loose. Usually you can get this one loose enough where you can get it free with your fingers after a couple turns. So once you can get this loose enough, remove that and get your main power wire out of the way. Okay, we're getting our nut and washer off for the main power wire. That's your main power wire. Behind that is going to be the smaller power wire to the solenoid. That simply is a spade connector and pulls right off. Very easy. Sometimes this will fall off accidentally and you won't be able to start your vehicle. So sometimes this is good to look at. If you can't start your vehicle, that could be a culprit right there. And make sure it's a nice tight fit when you put it back on. Next thing, there's really only two other bolts holding this puppy on. You got your ground wire down here and your bottom starter bolt, 12 millimeter, and your top bolt, which has a nut. The top is nut and bolt, so you'll need two 12-inch wrenches. The bottom side is just one. I like to start with the bottom side because if you start with the top, the weight of the starter is going to start weighting down and it's going to pinch this bottom bolt, which makes this one harder to get out. So I always start with the bottom one. I'll get my 12 millimeter short box wrench, because again, when the body of the vehicle is in the way, it's going to be difficult to access this. You're basically going to be doing it by feel from there. Okay, I've got my wrench. This time I have a ratcheting wrench. If you have one, this can come in handy right here, because then you don't got to keep taking the wrench off and putting it back on the bolt and searching for it. So you're just going to keep loosening that until you can get it hand tight and remove your bottom bolt and the ground cable. Okay, now the only thing left holding the starter to the transmission is the top nut and bolt. So you're going to have a holdback wrench, and again, I have the ratcheting wrench on this side, so I'll start ratcheting it. I only have one hand free, so I'm just showing you guys. You got this loose, then we'll be able to take this top nut and bolt off, and then the starter will be free. It's not going to fall out because you have this bracket here, so we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, we got the nut off, and now it's just the bolt. We're gonna pull out our bolt, and the starter is just laying in there. So make sure you put your nut and bolt where you know you're gonna find it. Now with this bracket, you wanna rotate it towards the engine and push it in towards the engine so that you can clear the front of the starter. See that? So you can get this clearance, because now when you're in the vehicle, you're gonna be finagling it up and out of the vehicle. So that's the trick. A lot of times you're going to be fighting it, but rotate it towards the engine, push it in, get that front clearing the bell housing, and then you can pull the starter motor out. And you're probably gonna have some bloody knuckles, probably gonna want to drink a beer at this time, because it goes a hell of a lot harder when you have the body of the vehicle there. But once you do it once or twice, you can do it by feel, and you'll know exactly what you're going for, and it really is not that bad. I have the fuel line out of the way, the return line, and the main fuel line out of the way for the video purpose, so you guys can see easier. But there's still room to get it with those. You might need to take the bolt that holds the fuel line to the intake manifold to get a little more clearance in here, but it's not that bad. And when you're putting it back together, make sure you get your ground wire back on the bottom, and remember the power wire I spoke about earlier. So you'll just do it in reverse order, get everything snugged up, and you can either buy the starter motors from us. We have plenty of them in good used condition, or you can go to your local AutoZone, whatever, buy them brand new, get a rebuild kit, rebuild it yourself, replace the solenoid, whatever the hell you want to do for that. But again, once you do it once or twice, it's really not that bad. I hope you guys have liked the video. I plan on doing several more this summer. It's been very busy lately and haven't been able to get time to it, but it's Miller time now over here, Highway 83. You guys have a good night.